the morning after we originally held it because I forgot to record the original one. And I want to make sure that those of you who were unable to attend yesterday have a chance to get all of the information. There's a lot of detail here, so it is important for you, so here it is. Excuse me, this webinar is just an overview of the Career Development Conference that we will be hosting on March 29th in Lansing. So for those of you who have not attended before, the Career Development Conference, or the CDC, is the annual culmination event where our students from across the state gather to showcase the skills they've learned in their JMT programs. This event is open to students from all programming, and it's really just like a celebration of the skills they've learned, and they can demonstrate those in front of each other, as well as judges, employer volunteers that we have from across the state. So we're expecting over 300 youth to attend this year, along with over 75 employer volunteers, over 50 specialists and managers. We do have VIP guests that attend. Those include legislators, board members, some of our people who advocate for us and help fund our programming. And then there are up to 42 different awards that can be won throughout the day. Just a note on how many specialists and managers can attend. That question was sent to me after the webinar yesterday, and we do have a room capacity, but in general we don't max that room out because there's always students who can't attend. So please send your specialists and managers if they're actively delivering services. If you're a manager and you have specialists actively delivering services, absolutely, we'd love for them to come to the event. This is really a time for you to celebrate the work that you've been doing with your students and for us to help celebrate you. So we do not say, certain specialists can't attend. Please send them. We'd love to have you all. Absolutely a time for you to come and for us to honor you. Review of what the day will look like. The schedule is very similar to last year. Registration begins at 9, and then we will have coffee. We're working on options for breakfast. A lot of the details around those specific things we will provide to you in a webinar later in March. Then we will have some opening remarks. Kristen will provide those. We this year will have, for the first time, a student speaker providing opening remarks. We're very excited that Eugene Thompson from the Detroit program, the out-of-school program, Sarah Metro, he'll be speaking. He's a JMT alum. He just the other day spoke at the launch of the Grow Detroit Young Talent program with the Detroit mayor. And he has just done some really fantastic work since he completed his work with Sarah Metro and with JMG, and we're really excited to have him as well as student speaker in general this year to launch the program, or to launch the event. I think our youth will really relate to him. He'll be great. Then for the next 2 hours from 10 to noon, our students are in their competitive events. So during that time, our specialists really just kind of have some downtime. They can, there'll be some booths that you all can interact with. Those booths this year are going to be more directed toward resources for you. But then there's just a general big ballroom area where specialists can hang out and, talk to each other. There are a couple events that you're welcome to go observe. But this is just kind of a general time when students are in events and specialists are, there's not really scheduled activities for you all. At noon is when lunch opens. And then at 12:30, we have our annual awards. So this year we have two different student awards that we are presenting, and we will view these as quite prestigious. The Alumni of the Year Award, as well as the Student Leader of the Year Award, which is new. So the Alumni of the Year Award is going to be for a student who is in follow-up, and the Student of the Year Award is a student who is in the active phase of the program. Now, both of these descriptions I sent out in an email to everyone, and anything that you need to access regarding the CDC, it will be emailed, but we also, just for holding it, you can find it on the Slack CDC page, CDC 2018 page. So I uploaded both student award nomination documents here yesterday. Let me find those. Maybe I did not actually. So I will do that. But if you go to our Dropbox file, which is where I said all CDC files, that is where you can find them as well. So we have our student award nomination document, and the two different nomination documents are in here. So we would love for you to nominate students for these. The more nominations we get, the better. This is just a great opportunity for you and for us to honor students and the great work that they have done. So again, Alumni of the Year is a student who has graduated either from traditional school or from an alternative or out-of-school program. And Student of the Year Award, Leader of the Year is a student who is in the active phase and has shown some great leadership skills throughout the year. So please review those. Please submit nominations. Those are due February 28th. And so we will honor students at that time. And we will be asking those students to prepare a speech to share to the crowd as well. Then we will also honor Advocate of the Year and Employer Champion of the Year. So though last year we had Walmart and DTE Energy. This year we will have obviously someone new. And we are going to be reserving our Specialist of the Year and Manager of the Year awards this year for Summer Summit. We decided that that gives us a little more time to allow nominations for those awards, and also we find that this event should be a little more student focused, and Summer Summit is more focused on specialists and managers. So then we have our guest speaker this year. We have our first ever female guest speaker, which I'm very excited about, April Hernandez Castillo. If you'd like to learn more about her, you can go to the website that is linked here. She is young. She's been on some popular TV shows and movies. I think the students will really relate to her. She just seems great. And there's some video clips here of her. And so you can check her out. You can show the students who they'll be hearing from. I think she's going to be really relatable for our students, and I think that they'll really connect with her. And then we have our award ceremonies. So this is when the students who have won a competitive event during the day get their awards for that. And then we have dismissal. Yesterday, when I recorded this live, we had Val Owen on the call, who's a specialist from Hartford. She had some great suggestions of how she helps prepare her students for competitive events that I'll try to rephrase for you. But I would definitely suggest if you're watching this recorded version and you have questions about that, please reach out on the CDC 2018 Slack channel, because we have a lot of great veteran teachers that have prepared their students for this event many times that can give you some suggestions of how to do that. So all students compete in 2 events, except for if students are competing in the JMT Bowl. The JMT Bowl is kind of like a quiz bowl, trivia style event, and that takes up the whole morning. So if a student is in that event, they'll only do 1 event. All competitive events will have two groups of winners. And we've kind of made the decision after the call yesterday that we know that some alternative programs are more like out of school. So we're going to have two different groups that we'll label just JMG1 and JMG2. When you register your students, you're going to determine which group your students are going to compete in. So JMG1 is going to be traditional, if your student is in a traditional school or if they come from a traditional school. So are they, have they ever dropped out of school? No. Have they ever been expelled from school? No. Basically, what level of competition should they be competing? What level of student should they be competing against? JMD2 is going to be more non-traditional, so definitely our out-of-school programs. And then for our alternative programs, you can think through if you are working in a program where your students have dropped out, you might not see your students very often. You may be working with students who've been expelled, and they might be more comfortable competing with students in the out-of-school realm. Then that might be, JMD2 might be a better place for them. So after some discussion, I think this is just kind of a better way to do this. We want our students to feel as comfortable as possible when they're competing. This is really an event where we want them to feel successful and feel, even if they don't win, we want them to build confidence and have a positive experience competing. So just think through that when you're signing your students up. And then also it's important to know that, so both of those groups will receive a first, second, and third place winner for each event. So that means that each event has 6 total winners, which is great. There's a lot of opportunity for winning there. And that also know that some events will require students to prepare beforehand. So that's what I'm going to go through now. So all of this is detailed in the Dropbox folder uploaded to Slack. So you can read through in detail what the events are. The first event is called Creative Problem Solving. They will be given a hypothetical problem related to a community issue, and they'll have a certain amount of time to analyze the problem and then present their solution to a panel of judges. This is a nice activity because your students do not require a lot of prep beforehand. They should probably be somewhat familiar with their team members, but really they don't need to come in with materials prepared. They can just come in that day and compete, and that's about it. They do need to, they're going to be demonstrating teamwork, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills, and so on. And they will be speaking to a panel of judges and in front of a group of people. So they need to be comfortable with those things. The second event that your students can compete in is called the JMT Bowl. So we're making a few changes to this based on feedback from last year, and we're really trying to make this much more of like a game show style event. So this is really like a quiz bowl based on the JAG competencies. The students will be answering questions both through a written test and then also through a verbal like game show with buzzers style game. So there will be different rounds, and teams are eliminated based on performance. Again, teams of 3 to 5. And they don't need to bring any materials with them, but they do need to be familiar with JAG competencies. Val Owen yesterday suggested that the more familiar your students are with the JAG pre and post test, the better. She did say that, last year a lot of the questions in the JMG Bowl were taken directly from the pre and post test. And that is something that I'm changing this year because a lot of those questions they're just a little bit strange. They don't assess the skills in the best way possible. So I would say that the pre and post test is a great way to prepare your students However, in general, just having your students prepared for the core competencies of out of school and in school. So really the questions are going to be centered around things like resume writing, cover letter writing, interviewing skills, solving problems at a job, how to work as a team, things like that. So, you know, really just the things that you're teaching your students, they're going to be, it's more of a quiz bowl style. So absolutely the JAG pre and post test, that style of question. Some of them, though, are, I will be refining because some of those questions are just not the best. Well, they're not very well written. So again, for that one, familiarity with team members, and then teams of 3 to 5. And again, this, if your students are in this event, they are in this event the whole day. That's the only event they compete in. Interviewing skills is one that requires extensive preparation beforehand for your students. In this event, your student will be interviewing for a simulated job opening. Last year, it was for just like a general position. This year, we have a job description we are providing for a physical therapist assistant for an internship in that position. So that is in the folder of competitive events, and it's uploaded to Slack. So your student is deciding to compete in this. What they'll do is they will review the job description. They will bring a copy of a resume and a cover letter, and those should be reflective of their actual skills. But they will bring it as though they are applying for this specific job. And then at the event, they will interview for that job with a judge. So they're going to be judged based on their cover letter and resume, but also their actual interview, so their poise, their answers, and so on. So beforehand, there does require them to write a cover letter, to write a resume, to research this job and industry, so in this case, the healthcare industry. They should practice interviewing. They should be comfortable responding to questions with an adult. And this year, we will have them interview with more than one judge. They will probably shift between like 2 judges. So this does require quite a bit of work, you know, not the best activity for a student who is not going to be prepared or might not show up that day, or is not good in like a one-on-one conversation setting. So think through what kind of student would be successful in this and what kind of student might not. Val and Jocelyn from Hartford both suggested using the Whirlpool mock interview day questions to prep students, which they uploaded to Slack. So really what you're doing in your classrooms and service centers anyway when you're doing interview prep with kids, that's kind of what you do here. So that's a suggestion there. And in general, one of the tips that our specialist gave yesterday is that you don't really want to, I guess the word is not coerce, but you want kids to opt into these because, you know, you don't want a kid who feels uncomfortable in the situation to, you know, you don't want to think, oh, you know, like Sam would be great at interviewing, and you sign Sam up for this, and then this is not, you know, he's not prepared the day of. So really talking to your kids, you know your kids, talking to them about what they're going to be good at, what they're comfortable in, and then making a decision about which students are going to be competing. So on that same note, public speaking is a very similar event. It requires students to prepare ahead of time, and it also requires a lot of kind of self-confidence and a student to be very comfortable speaking in front of a crowd. So in this case, a student will prepare a 3 to 5 minute speech on a high demand industry. So that includes manufacturing, healthcare, agriculture, skilled trade, /construction, retail, hospitality, or energy. So when it comes to the topic of that speech, They can really talk about anything. They can talk about the industry itself. They can talk about their interest in a job in that industry. They can talk about their experience going on a talent tour in that industry. They can talk about the actual jobs available in that industry. It really varies, but it just needs to be about one of those industries. They do need to bring a prepared speech on index cards, and it does require them to research the topic, write their speech, and practice it. And this is probably one that would be the most nerve-wracking for teenagers, because public speaking is obviously something that a lot of us struggle with. So definitely being very clear to your students that they will be speaking in front of a panel of judges and also other students for 3 to 5 minutes. So being, very clear with them about that. So that's definitely a piece that to think through. So that is an individual activity. For students who are maybe good at public speaking but would not have the time commitment to prepare ahead of time. So in this event, the competitor will receive an unusual object, and they have to kind of on the fly create, well, they will have time, but in that time frame, they have to create, a 3 to 5 minute sales pitch to present to the judges. So in this case, the other students are not in the room, but the student will walk in, all the students will walk in, they'll all receive different objects. So for example, last year there was like an empty Kleenex box, there was some kind of like door handle, some kind of cloth or something, and essentially the students have to determine how it would become useful and desirable as a product. So they have a certain amount of time to do that, and then they have 3 to 5 minutes to actually pitch their product to the judges. So again, a great opportunity for youth who are good at public speaking but might not have the time to do the research and preparation beforehand. So there is not any really pre-prep required, but it would, again, this is a student who would be speaking in front of a panel of judges and would need some good public speaking skills and self-confidence. So that's product marketing. There is a new activity this year called team building. This is replacing what we call target to market. So in this activity, this is groups of 3 to 5 students, and basically they're going to be completing a multi-step team building activity. This is not required pre-preparation. The activity will be testing problem solving, creativity, and then also their communication skills as a team. So for this, really, this again is a great one for teams who don't want to do a lot of pre-prep work, but who want to work as a team. And there won't be a lot of details given about what they'll be doing. It's really like they'll come in and have to solve a problem and work together to do that. So this is a good opportunity for youth who don't have the time or who won't have the ability to do a lot of preparation work on the front end. The details for this again are in the descriptions of competitive events. One thing to note for this is that a big portion of the judging will be based on how well they work as a team. So like all team members are included, that they use positive reinforcement with each other, and so on. One suggestion that Val gave yesterday that I thought was really great is that she said whenever her students signed up for an event and they were, preparing, she had them look at the judging rubric. So, just general best teaching practice, but all the judging rubrics are in Dropbox and on Slack, and so you can really give those to your students so they know how they'll be judged. They'll be judged for public speaking, they'll be judged for team building. So once they know which event they're competing in, they can look at those rubrics and get a good sense of what they need to be doing when they're going into the room. So that's that piece. The last event is chapter marketing. This event is unique because they don't actually do anything at the CDC. This is all created beforehand. So in this event, the students create some kind of digital commercial or presentation about your JMT program. Basically, this can be a video, but it could also be some kind of like photograph with music collage, but it should be basically they're advertising the JMT program. So a couple notes on this. We need to be able to upload it to a YouTube. Depending on the technology capabilities, we sometimes like to show the winning video at the CDC. Otherwise, we usually like to upload it to Facebook and Twitter. So we absolutely need to make sure we have media releases for anyone that's in the video. If your students are competing in this event, they need to submit any presentations to me by March 16th. So that's about 6 weeks from now. This is a great opportunity for in your programs to have a great project for your kids to work on, during class or whatnot. A great way to have kids who might not be comfortable doing those public speaking events at the CDC to compete and participate. Kids who might be really good at video editing or like marketing. This is an opportunity for them to get involved. It needs to be between 90 seconds and 3 minutes long. Val and Jocelyn uploaded a free video editor to Slack for you to look at. You can look at previous videos on our YouTube page to see what other groups have done in the past. To get a sense of what they might look like. This can really be as creative as you want it to be. And you don't need to overcomplicate it. Val said her students use their iPhones to video. One point that a specialist made from last year or from previous years is that this does need to be student made. So you can't use like outside video editing services to make it. Of course, the teacher will need to help students learn how to edit videos and whatnot, but this should be a student-driven presentation. So lots of opportunity for creativity here. I suggest looking at those videos on the YouTube page to kind of see what students have done in the past. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me or other specialists. And then there will be first, second, and third place again for both our JMT1 and JMT2 groups. So just before we move on to general notes, all competitive event documents are, again, they're uploaded to Slack. Description documents. There's the overview document that you can look at that just gives a quick snapshot of each event. And then there's all the individual documents that are here as well that you can look through. And then they have the rubrics that I was referring to and more detail about what your students might be doing. So please look through those. Very useful. So some general notes that you want to pay attention to here. Who should attend the CDC? Obviously your student leaders, but also like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, this is really a day for any student that you think might benefit from participating in these competitive events. We want this to be an event where students feel successful, where they benefit from these competitions. They can meet and network with students from across the state. They hear from guest speakers. It's just a really positive day overall. So think through that as you're thinking about who's going to because there's a 2-hour time block in which events are happening, and that's when competitions are happening. So really, students should only come, again, if they're competing in an event. And also, students can't change events the day of. There's a lot of pre-work that goes into determining, once we get the registration forms, it's quite extensive in terms of the time and detail that goes into figuring out how many students are in interviewing skills in the morning or in event 1, and how many students are in chapter marketing in event 2, and so on. And so if a student comes there and they see everybody and they are like, oh gosh, I don't want to do public speaking anymore, we aren't ever going to force a kid to do something, but they can't change to a different event. So please think through that, have those conversations with your kids, that make sure that they know going into it kind of what level of, it will be, if there's a lot of people there. And so we don't ever want kids to feel uncomfortable, but we also want them to know that, once they get there that day, they can't decide they want to do something different. So in terms of what they wear to the day, it's absolutely business professional dress. It's a great opportunity for them to dress up and show off their professionalism. Students love to, wear their, best outfits. We've received some mixed feedback about if we should include professional dress in the judging. For many of the events, professionalism in terms of dress is included in the judging. Mixed feedback on whether that should be included or not. If you have thoughts about that, please send it my way. T-shirts for this day are optional, because you do not have to wear the T-shirt at the event. So they're $10 each. If you would like a T-shirt, or if your students would like them, you can include that on the registration form, which I will go over now. So registration, I will be sending that out in a moment. They are due to managers Friday, February 23rd from specialists, and then managers will be submitting it to me by Friday, March 2nd. The way you determine how many students can attend is based on your active roster count by your ENDMS roster. So back to the idea of how many specialists can attend. If you have one ENDMS roster that 3 different specialists manage, that roster count is how you're determining how many students attend. All of those specialists are absolutely welcome to attend, but if you have 18 students on that roster, then only 4 students can attend. And this is all, we would love it if every student could attend this event, but this is all based on room capacity at the Lansing Center. And, it would be problematic if we had more people come and we don't have room for them and we violate fire code and whatnot. So please pay attention to this when you're registering students. Our program has grown this year. We will have more students than we have in the past, so please just be mindful of that. So essentially, if you have a really big program, more than 60 students on your roster, you can have 10 students attend, and just pay attention to that and the directions. When you fill this out, you're going to rate each student's 1st through 4th choice of competition, which we try to honor. Remember that they would compete in more than one event unless they're doing the JMT Bowl, but you're still going to rate 1st through 4th for all of them. And also remember that there's team events. So these 3, JMT Bowl, problem solving, and team building, are all team events. So you would need at least 3 students for those events, up to 5. Please fill in these forms by typing. I'm sending them out as a Microsoft Word document. Handwriting it in and then scanning it in just makes it sometimes hard to read, and also just hard for us to compile. So typing makes it a lot easier. Please include the name of at least 3 alternates. If you can only find 1 or 2 alternates, that's fine, but 3 alternates to include in case at the last minute a student is unable to attend. This is because, again, the whole day is scheduled based on students coming to these events. We have judges, everything is really centered around the competitive events part of the program. So if we have alternates come, that helps keep the day running smoothly. And then again, if you want the shirts, write in their sizes, and you will be invoiced for those. All of the updates are on Slack. Like I said, join this channel. I invited most people to join it. If you haven't, then just ask me and I can show you how to do that. A note about communication in general, all files, so the competitive event files, this webinar, any just general communication, like for example, the invitation and whatnot are all uploaded to Slack and Dropbox. Those are just how we kind of view them as like holding places. Any just like deadline and communication reminders will be sent through email. But general notes and stuff are sent on Slack. Please remember to submit student award nominations. Again, the deadline for that is Wednesday, February 28th. If you would like to recruit volunteers as judges, we still need about 50 more. So managers should be recruiting. I'm not sure how you communicated with specialists around that, but the invitation is uploaded to Dropbox and I'll put it on Slack. So feel free to invite people to come and volunteer. And then we'll have a final webinar that I'll record again Thursday, March 15th at 3:30. This will go through details of the day in terms of where to park, what time you need to be there, where your students will be sitting, where the different events will be held. Very detailed. This is a 500-person event, and the more information that you have up front, the better the day will flow and just more successful it will be overall. Final questions. Yesterday we had a couple. I suggest that this is your first event, just be sure to check Slack because a lot of specialists upload just suggestions and ideas in there. I'll be sending all this information out in an email in a moment, so you can get that information there. But really what you need to focus on right now is submitting your registration, preparing your students, and I guess both of those things together. So the registration is due the end of February, but so up until then, figuring out who your students are going to be that attend and preparing them, submitting that registration at the end of February, and then during the month of March, preparing those students, and getting in any award nominations that you can. So feel free always to reach out to me if you have questions. It's a really exciting and great day, and we know that you all put a lot of work into it and that your students put a lot of work into it, and we really try to make it the best that we can, because it's just the more front-end work that we all can do, the better the day is. So thank you for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will try my best to answer them.